guys, my name's Dave and welcome to another Guitar Zero to Hero song tutorial. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play Nobody Knows When You're Down and Out by Eric Clapton, which is an awesome tune. For the basics of this song, you will need a guitar in standard tuning and you won't need a capo. Now, if you want to master your chords back to front, then be sure to head over to guitarzerotohero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. Or if you want to improve your guitar in general, then check out Guitar Zero to Hero Premium, which is my complete step-by-step guitar course. Let's jump into the lesson. So I'm going to teach you two different ways of playing this particular arrangement. The first method will be the more difficult version and is as close as possible to Eric Clapton's Unplugged version. It also includes the lead guitar solo as well. Now, the finger picking in this version is quite tricky, so if you're a beginner and you just want an easy way of playing this song, then in the second half of this video, I'll teach you some chords that you can just strum and sing along to. So let's get stuck into Eric Clapton's Unplugged version, and we'll start with the intro, which is just 2 lines of tab. One thing to note is that the rhythm in this song has a swing feel. So it's 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and notice how the downbeats are held out longer than the upbeats. So we're going to start with the C chord shape here. Now we're going to use our thumb to pluck the bass note, and that's actually going to be on the end beat after the 4. So 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and then on the next bar, on the 1 beat, we're going to use our index, middle, and ring finger to pluck the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings all together. So it's 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. On the 2 beat, we're going to be doing a slap flick. Now that's very similar to a typical percussive slap like this, where we drop the side of our thumb onto one of the bass strings. So you get that percussive noise, but at the same time, you're also going to flick your index finger to hit some of these higher strings. Now, this technique takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but basically all I'm doing is dropping my thumb onto the strings, and at the same time, I'm keeping my index finger curled, but I'm lightly stroking the strings. And this all happens in one smooth, continuous motion like that. Don't flick it all the way out here because then you'll need to pull your index finger back in anyway. So that's an inefficient movement. And the majority of the movement is actually through the wrist. I'm rotating my forearm and wrist like this. And that way I'm simultaneously hitting my thumb onto the strings, but then flicking the index finger on the higher strings. So notice how it's more of a rotation of my forearm and wrist than me coming down vertically like this. So that's going to be on the 2 beat. Now with this technique, you don't have to be super precise with the notes that you end up flicking. Just as long as they're notes within the chord, then it's generally going to sound okay. After that, we're going to go to an E chord, but we're going to start with our index finger lifted because we're going to hammer this index finger into place. So we're going to hit the open 6th string, then pluck the 4th and 3rd strings with our index and middle. But after you do, just hammer your index finger into place. And then after that, you're going to pluck the 1st string with your ring finger. And so far. Now on the 4 beat, we're going to do another slap flick, but we're going to target this 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Now what I do with my index finger is I just lightly touch 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings with my index finger. I'm not actually fretting down those strings, I'm just making contact with those strings, so they're all muted. But with my ring finger, I have it pushed down on that 3rd fret. So when I do the muted slap flick, only this 3rd fret note's going to ring out because everything else behind it is muted. So that's on the 4 beat, and then on the end beat after the 4, I'm then going to fret that index finger down, and I'm going to pluck that 2nd string once more. And so far with the C and E chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and then we move on to the next bar where we have our A shape in place. What we want to do is we're going to turn it to an A7 by putting our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. So with this A7, we're going to hit the open 5th and then the 4th string, and then we're going to do a slap flick. And then after the slap flick on the 2 beat, we're going to pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings with our index, middle, and ring finger. So that's the first half. 1 and 2 and And then the second half is 5th, 4th, and then slap flick on the 4 beat. After that, on the end beat after the 4, we then change to our next chord, which is the D minor. And you'll find this happens a lot within this song where the chord changes actually occur on the end beat after the 4, just before the 1 beat of the next bar, where you would usually expect the chord to change. And in total for the bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So now we're in a D minor position. On the next bar, we're then going to pluck the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings together on the 1 end beat. 1 and... After that, we have a 3-note section, which is just the 4th string, the 3rd and 2nd, and back to the 4th. That's at a triplet as well, so consider that a group of 3 notes. And so far for the D minor, and 1 and 2. On the 3 beat, we then go back to our A7 chord. So start with the open 5th string, and then we're going to pluck the 3rd and 2nd strings, and then on the 4 beat, we'll do a slap flick. On the end beat after the 4, we'll quickly change back to a D minor, where we'll pluck the 1st, 2nd and 3rd strings. So the second half of this bar, 3 and 4 and from the start of the D minor, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Moving on to the next bar, we then go 4th string, 3rd string, and then we're going to lift our index finger, so this is a D sus2, and we'll do a slap flick here. Right after the slap flick, index finger comes back down, we're going to pluck the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings, and then we get this nice chromatic run up on the 4th string. So we go open 4th, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Now the rhythm again is all at 8th notes, and remember we have a shuffle feel. So 3 and 4 and from the start of this D minor in the previous bar, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the first line of tab in total, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So now that we have our ring finger here on this F note, we then get into an F chord. So it's just a nice and easy F triad, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, index on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. We'll start by plucking the 2nd and 3rd strings back to the bass note, and then a slap flick on the 2 beat. So 1 and 2. On the end beat after the 2, we're then going to shift our ring finger up 1 fret to the F sharp. So this is F sharp diminished. You can also play that with your pinky finger as well if you wanted to, if that's a bit more comfortable than sliding the ring finger up 1 fret. So that 4th fret is on the end beat after the 2. Then we'll go back to the 3rd and 2nd, back to the bass note, and a slap flick on the 4 beat. And then on the end beat after the 4, we'll then get into a C position and hit the bass note, which is the 5th string. So the bar in total, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So from the C chord, we've already hit the bass note. On the 1 beat in the next bar, we'll pluck the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings all together. And then we'll do a chromatic run down on the 5th string from 2nd, 1st and open 5th string, which will then take us to our A7 chords. And so far from the start of the C, and 1 and 2 and... We'll then get to our A7 position. We'll pluck the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings twice, and then on the 4 beat, a slap flick. And on the end beat after the 4, we'll then hit an open 4th string, and this will take us to our next chord, which is a D7. So far from the C, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So we'll now get into a D7 position, so middle and ring finger on the 2nd frets of the 3rd and 1st string, and index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. We're going to pluck the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings on the 1 beat, then go back to the bass note, and then a slap flick on the 2 beat, back to the bass note on the end beat after the 2, and so far, and 1 Then we'll pluck the third, second, and first strings twice. And then another slap flick. And on the end beat after the 4, we'll then go to the G note here, which will take us to a G7. So play that G with your ring finger. And so far from the start of the D. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and... For the G7, we'll pluck pretty much a similar pattern to the D7. So bass note, and then on the 1 beat, pluck the first, second, and third strings, back to the bass note, slap flick, and back to bass note. So, and 1, and 2, and then pluck the first, second, and third twice, a slap flick, and back to the bass note. And from the start of the G. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and the second line of tab in total. And that's it for the intro, which sounds like this in total. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Next we get to the main verse, which is basically the same chord progression that we had in the intro, but there'll just be some minor variations to the picking. Now, throughout Eric Clapton's Unplugged version, he does change things up each time he plays the progression, just minor adjustments here and there. But to keep things simple, I'm going to teach you this one progression, and you can basically just use this for all of the verses and choruses in this song. So we're going to start with our C, but this time we start the C on the 1 beat. And we're going to pinch the 5th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. We're going to do that with our thumb, index, and middle finger. And then we'll do the slap flick on the 2 beat. So 1 and 2. On the end beat after the 2, we'll then go to our E chord, and we'll hit the open 6th string. We'll have our index finger lifted similar to the intro, because it will pluck the 3rd and 2nd strings and hammer your index finger into place. So that's on the 3 beat. And then on the 4 beat, we'll do another slap flick. And after the slap flick, we'll then go to an A7 chord, and we'll hit just the open 5th string. And for the first bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So after that bass note, we'll then start on the 1 beat with the 3rd and 2nd strings, back to the bass note, a slap flick on the 2 beat, and back to the bass note. And so far, and 1 and 2 and then on the 3 beat we'll pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings twice, and then on the 4 beat a slap flick, and then we'll hit the open 5th string as we transition to a D minor. And from the start of the A, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So now we're in a D minor position. On the 1 beat, we'll pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. Hold that out until the 2 beat, where we'll do a slap flick. After the slap flick, we'll then quickly transition to an A7, hit the open 5th string, pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings, and then on the 4 beat, another slap flick. And after that, we then go back to the D minor by hitting the open 4th string. So from the end beat on the previous bar, and 1 and 2 and 3. Now we're back to the D minor, and we'll pluck the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. And then on the 2 beat, we'll lift our index finger and do a slap flick here. Index finger back down, pluck the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. And then we have that chromatic run up to the F note on the 4th string. So 3 and 4 and... So from the start of the D minor. And 1 and 2 and 3 and And in total for the first line of tab for this verse. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now the second line of tab is just identical to the second line of tab in the intro. So nothing new to learn there. And in total, the verse/chorus will just sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, one variation of that will just occur before the guitar solo, and this will actually allow you a little bit of time to grab a guitar pick in order to use for the solo, and you'll see Eric Clapton actually doing this in his live performance. Basically, for this final G7, we're just going to stop on the 3 beat and hold that out, and that will allow us time to grab our pick. So for the final G7, before the solo, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and grab your pick, and then you're ready to go. Now, before we get to the solo, I just want to teach you the final verse and the outro. So we'll cover all the rhythm parts first, and then I'll teach you the solo. So the final verse and the outro has 4 lines of tab here. Now, the first 7 bars are basically identical to the verses. The only thing that changes is that on the final end beat after the 4 in the 7th bar, instead of going to the G note, we just hit another open 4th string. And in the final bar here, we're going to pluck the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings, bass note, and then a slap flick back to the bass note, and then our ascending chromatic run. So open 4th string again, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And the final bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and from the start of the D7, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for the third line of tab we get to our F chord, and we're basically just staying on this F chord and playing a similar picking pattern to what we had with the D7. So we're going to start by plucking the 3rd and 2nd back to the bass note, slap flick back to the bass note, which is the 4th string, pluck the 3rd and 2nd string twice, and a slap flick on the 4 beat and back to the bass note. And in total, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for the next bar we stay on the F, pluck the 3rd and 2nd back to bass note, slap flick back to bass note, and for the second half we'll pluck the 3rd and 2nd strings and then go to the 2nd fret of the 4th, 1st, and opened. So the bar in total, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so we go back down to a D7, and we're going to pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings on the 1 beat, bass note, a slap flick on the 2 beat, back to bass note. So the first half, 1 and 2 and then for the second half, we're going to pluck the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings twice, and a slap flick on the 4, and then we go to our G7, just hitting that G on the end beat after the 4. And then on the next 1 beat, we'll pluck the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings, and then a slap flick on the 2. So for these 2 bars, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So that's it for the third line of tab. Now I'm going to play from the start of the second line of tab. Remember, everything from the first line of tab is identical to the other verses, so we don't need to cover that here. I'll just play from the second line of tab so you can see it in context. So 1, 2, and 3, 4. fourth line of tab, which is a fun little lick which ends the song. So we're going to start with the 6th fret of the 2nd string. We're going to hit that, and we're going to just do a half bend here. After that, we then release the bend, pluck it one more time, and then we have 2 groups of triplets here. So the first set of 3 notes is 4th fret, then 5th fret of the 3rd, and down to the 3rd fret. So 4, 5, 3, and then we go down to the 5th fret of the 4th string. We're going to pluck 5th, 4th, 3rd fret. And that's our second group of 3 notes. So triplet, triplet. And for the final bar, we take our index finger to the 1st fret of the 4th string. We're going to pluck this and hammer on and pull off to the 2nd fret. So hammer on, pull off, and then this middle finger comes onto the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Then we get into this shape, which is a B9 chord. So middle finger on that 2nd fret, ring and pinky finger on the 2nd frets of the 3rd and 2nd strings. We're going to pluck the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings with that index, middle and ring, and then move that up 1 fret, which is our C9, and we're going to pinch the 5th, 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings to end the song, and the 4th line of tab in total. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you the lead guitar solo, which is a whole lot of fun to play. And most of this is just based around the C blues scale. So there's 4 lines of tab here. We're going to start on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and then we're going to hit the 5th fret and quickly slide it up to the 7th. And then 5th fret of the 4th, 7th fret, and then 5th fret of the 3rd string, 7th fret, but we hit it and quickly slide up to 9th, and then 8th fret of the 2nd string. So starting note, and then triplet, triplet. And then we end on the 10th fret of the 2nd string here. So we're going to pluck that once to end this final run, and the first phrase in total. So for our second run, we're going to start with this 10th fret again. So pluck it once more. We have 2 more sets of triplets here. So we're going to take our ring finger, go down to our 8th fret of the 2nd string, hit it and slide up to 10th. And then back down to 8th, 9th fret of the 3rd. So triplet. And then we've got to go down to 7th, 5th, and then 7th fret of the 4th string. So triplet, triplet. And then to end this phrase, we're going to hit the 5th fret of the 3rd string, hammer on to the 6th, and then end on the 7th fret of the 4th string. So the second phrase in total. And the first line of tab. For the second line of tab, we go to the 5th fret of the 2nd string with our middle finger. We're going to hit it and slide up to the 6th fret and then pull off. So we'll pluck that 6th fret again and pull off another time to the 5th fret. Then we go to 7th fret of the 3rd string, pluck that and pull off to 5th and back to the 7th. Now this phrase doesn't start on the 1 beat, it starts after the 1 beat. So it's 1. For our next phrase, we then go to the 7th fret of the 4th string. We're going to hit that, and we're going to quickly slide down to the 5th fret, down to the 3rd fret, and then there's 2 groups of triplets again. So back to the 5th, down to 3rd, 5th fret of the 4th string. And then for our next set of 3 notes, 3rd fret of the 5th, 4th, and up to 5th fret. So triplet, triplet, and this whole phrase. And to end this line of tab, we're going to slide up to the 7th fret of the 4th string and then 5th fret of the 3rd string. And that's the second line of tab in total, which sounds like this. For the third line of tab, we have 4 sets of triplets here. So we're going to start by hitting the 7th fret of the 3rd string, down to the 5th, back up to 7th. So triplet. And then for our second set of 3 notes, we go up to the 8th fret, back down to 5th, and back up to 7th. So triplet. For our next set of 3 notes, it's 5th fret, 7th fret of the 4th, back up to 5th fret. So, and then for our final set of 3 plucks, we're going to go up to the 8th fret with our ring finger, hit that, and quickly slide down to 7th, down to 5th, and then 7th fret of the 4th. So the final set of 3 plucks, and we put that all together. And if we include the last 2 notes from the second line of tab, it'll sound like this. For the next bar, we'll then just play this shape here. So middle finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd, index finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string. So we're going to slide into that, and we're going to play this 3 times. And this isn't on the 1 beat, it's slightly after the 1 beat. We're going to pluck this 3 times, and then down 1 fret, down 1 fret, down 1 fret. And at this point, bar your index finger across the 5th frets of the 1st and 2nd strings, because we'll end with those 2 strings. And so far, 1. And then to end this line of tab, we're going to take our middle finger and slide up to the 7th fret of the 4th string. And in total for the 3rd line of tab, I'm going to start from the last 2 notes of the 2nd line of tab. With our middle finger here on the 7th fret, we'll put our ring finger on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, and we're going to do some hybrid picking here. So this is where you use your pick, and at the same time you use one of your fingers to pluck one of the other strings. So we're going to hybrid pick here. We're going to use our middle finger here to pluck the 2nd string, and then we're going to use our pick to pluck the 4th string. Back to the 2nd string, then we'll shift the shape up 1 fret, and we'll pluck the 2nd string and the 4th string. We'll shift the shape up 1 more fret to 9th, and at this point we'll pinch those 2 strings together, and then we'll do the same 1 fret up, and so far. We hold that out for a little bit, and then we're going to pluck the 4th string and then the 2nd string. To end this, we'll hit the 4th string once more, and we'll slide that up to the 12th fret. And in total for this bar, and from the final bar, we'll hit the 12th fret of the 2nd string, and you can start using your pick here, and then up to the 13th, 14th, 15th fret, 16th fret, we're going to hit that, and go up to the 17th fret, and then end on the 15th fret. So it's just a chromatic run up. And in total for the final line of tab, and I'm going to start from the final note of the 3rd line of tab. And that's the solo in total, which sounds like this. Alright, so now I'm going to teach you the easiest possible way of just strumming the chords and singing along. If all that fingerstyle stuff was too difficult for you, but you still want to play the song, then this is how we're going to do it. Now this is really quite simple. We just have a constant down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up strumming pattern throughout. And remember, this is a shuffle feel. So when you're strumming, the down beats are held out longer than the up beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so for the verses and the intro, there's 2 lines of chords here. We have a C and an E major. Now those 2 chords are within 1 strumming pattern, and the point at which we change is on the 3 beat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we go to an A7 chord, middle and ring finger on the 2nd frets of the 4th and 2nd string, and we're strumming from the 5th string onwards. This is strummed for a full bar. Then we go to a D minor chord, back to an A7, and those are contained within one strumming pattern, and back to the D minor for another full strumming pattern. So the first line of chords, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Then for the second line of chords, we go to an easy F chord shape like this. So just ring on the 3rd fret, middle on the 2nd fret of the 3rd, and index on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. We're just going to focus on these 3 strings, and then we'll go up to an F sharp diminished. So from this shape, just move your ring finger up 1 fret, or you can use your pinky finger to hit that. It's up to you, but I'll just slide my ring finger up. So those 2 chords are within one strumming pattern, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then we go to a C and an A7 contained within one strumming pattern. After that, we play a D7. So from the A7, just move your 2 fingers down 1 string and then index finger on that 1st fret of the 2nd string. So 1 full strumming pattern of the D7, and then we go to a G7 for 1 full strumming pattern. And to play that, index finger on the 1st fret of the 1st string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And that's played for 1 full strumming pattern. So the full verse will sound like this. Now the only other thing to learn for this super easy version is the final verse. Now for the final verse, we just extend our chord progression. So there's 3 lines of chords here. Now for the final chord of the second line of tab, instead of having a G7, we're playing 2 D7s. And for the third line of chords, it's an F for 2 strumming patterns, a D7 for 1 strumming pattern, and our G7 for 2 strums, 1 and 2, and then we just end it there. So that's the final verse. I'll just play it from the second line of chords onwards. And those are all the parts that you need to learn for this song. So now I'll do 2 playthroughs of this song. The first playthrough will be the more advanced fingerstyle version, and the second playthrough will be the easy strum version. But in both, I will include the guitar solo that Eric Clapton plays. A big thanks to my friend Eric for lending his awesome vocals to this playthrough. Feel free to play this back as many times as you'd like to practice, play along to, and see how you go. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this lesson, then I know you'll absolutely love these other lessons too. So hit the link here, or if you want to grab a copy of my free guitar ebook, then head over to guitarzerotohero.com or click the link here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.